Alright class, so starting with our lecture of urinary system. The main function of the urinary system is to remove waste. So all the nitrogenous wastes that are built up in the different cells and tissues of the body are actually transported to the kidney via blood, which are then filtered out of the kidney which are then transported out of the body via urine. Now, the urinary system produces urine, right? It filters blood to produce urine. The urinary system also stores the urine for some period of time, and then finally the urine is excreted out of our body. Our urinary system constantly monitors our blood volume and produces hormones that regulate blood volume regulation. We will talk about this in depth later in this chapter. The urinary system produces a hormone called erythropoietin, which regulates erythrocyte production. And last but not the least, our urinary system is responsible for maintaining plasma pH level. If our system gets too acidic, the urinary system tries to eliminate hydrogen ions to bring it back to homeostasis. And if it becomes too basic, then our urinary system tries to retain hydrogen ions to get the pH back to normal range. All right, so the urinary system is comprised of the following structures. We have the kidneys right here. You can see the kidneys. This is one and this is the other kidney. And then we have urinary tract. The urinary tract is made up of three structures. The first one is this tube. Do you see this tube coming out of the kidney and coming down? This is called the ureter. That's our ureter. Then you have the bladder, where the urine is temporarily stored for some time. So that's the bladder. And then this tube through which we excrete urine out of the body, this is the urethra. And together, the ureter, the urinary bladder, and the urethra, together they make up the urinary tract. All right. So zooming into the kidneys now, we are looking into a coronal section of a kidney. This is a coronal section. And remember, kidneys are retroperitoneal organs, meaning they are sticking to your posterior abdominal wall. Remember, if an organ is sticking to the wall, it is retroperitoneal. Now, is this 100% surrounded by the visceral peritoneum? No. So kidneys are retroperitoneal, meaning they are not 100% surrounded by the visceral peritoneum. Another fun fact, your right kidney is placed 2 cm lower as compared to the left kidney. The reason being there is this gigantic liver sitting on the right side. That is why the kidneys have to accommodate the huge liver. There is another structure. Oreo, go. Go, Oreo. I know. Okay, sorry class. There is another structure called hilum, which is this dented part. Let me see if I can change color. So hilum is this dented region. Do you see this dented part of the kidney? That is called the hilum. And it is actually the place through where blood vessels, nerves, and ureters enter and exit the kidney. The hilum is continuous with this area, and this area is called the renal sinus. That's the renal sinus. Okay. Okay, moving on. Now, kidneys. Do you think kidneys are super delicate organs? They are very delicate. So no wonder kidneys remain surrounded by a huge layer of fat. So in this picture, we are looking at a kidney, and we are seeing that this kidney is surrounded by a huge amount of fat. And then on top of the kidney, there is a gland that's sitting, and this is called the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland actually has a very significant role in maintaining ion balance in the body and also water balance. So iron and water balance in the body. Adrenal glands. All right, so we are looking into the peritoneal cavity, and right here, this is your kidney. That is the kidney. Now we will see the different layers of fat that cover and protect the kidneys. To start with, this layer right here is the paranephric fat. This is the outermost fat layer that protects the kidney. Paranephric fat is this layer, the outermost layer. This is followed by another layer of connective tissue, and this is called the renal fascia. It's this white layer. Do you see this? That's the renal fascia. Then we have paranephric fat, which is this layer right here, that is paranephric fat. And then we have fibrous capsule, which is this white layer. That's the fibrous capsule. So these are the protective layers of the kidney. So let's review. Starting from superficial to deep, we have paranephric fat, we have renal fascia, then we have perinephric fat, and the fibrous capsule is actually sticking to the surface of the kidney. So now we are actually looking at a coronal section of the kidney, and there are few structures that are very, very prominent. The most superficial region is called the renal cortex. That's the renal cortex. Deep to that, this area right here is the renal medulla. And then if you zoom into the renal medulla, you see renal pyramid. So this is one pyramid. This is another pyramid. So these are renal pyramids. And in between the renal pyramids, if you look at this area that I'm shading right now, this area is called renal column. So to review, this outer part is the cortex. Then this part is the medulla. And then within the medulla, you have these structures. These are called pyramids. And in between the pyramids, you have renal columns. Few other anatomical structures. The junction between the cortex and the medulla is called corticomedullary junction. This region has very, very important anatomical and functional significance, which we will talk about later. This point is called the renal papilla. We will talk about the function a little later. And if you can imagine actually cutting out a slice, like a pizza slice, if you can imagine this, cutting out, this will be a renal lobe. All right. Now, coming out of each renal pyramid is a minor calyx. So let me use a different color. Right here. So do you see this tube coming out of each pyramid? These tubes are called minor calyx. Now I want you to focus here. Do you see how the minor calyces are coming together to form like this expanded area? That area is the major calyx. So the blue areas are minor calyx. Where the minor calyces come together, we call it major calyx. By the way, class, we say calyx, that's singular. When we say calyces, that's plural. Okay. Major calyx. This is followed by this common area called renal pelvis, and the renal pelvis then leads to this tube that extends out of the kidney. This is called the ureter. So that's the ureter. This common area is the pelvis. And we also talked about the major calyx and the minor calyx. All right, looking into blood flow through the kidney. Please pay attention as I draw. The renal artery enters the kidney, right? We'll start with the renal artery, and it is labeled here. You can see the renal artery. It enters the kidney and then divides into these branches. Do you see? This is one branch and this is another branch. These branches are called segmental arteries. And the renal artery actually branch into 4 to 5 segmental arteries. So these are segmental arteries. Let me use a different color. The segmental arteries then further divide, and these branches are called, the green ones that I'm drawing, these are called interlobar arteries. The interlobar arteries then make an arc, and where the arc at this point, I'm marking this with blue, this is called arcuate artery. They're making an arc, so that's an arcuate artery. From the arcuate artery, we have these red arteries. You see these ones that are in the cortex? These arteries are called interlobular arteries. So let's review. We have the renal artery. The renal artery branches to form 4 to 5 segmental arteries. The segmental arteries form interlobar arteries. The interlobar arteries then make an arc to form arcuate arteries. From the arcuate arteries, we have interlobular arteries radiating into the cortex. Now, please pay attention. Arising from these interlobular arteries that we don't see here are afferent arterioles. So we don't see these here. But then arising from the interlobular arteries are the afferent arterioles. The afferent arteriole leads to a capillary bed called glomerulus, and the glomerulus then forms another capillary bed called from the glomerulus, actually, just forget this. Let me see. It will be way better if I just draw it out. I'll just start making a new video with a drawing.